Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Friday meeting of the University of Wisconsin System Board of Regents. At this time, I'll ask Madam Clerk to please call the roll.
Regent President Peterson.
Here.
Regent Vice President Grebe. Here. Regent Atwell.
Here.
Regent Bechtel.
Here.
Regent Delgado.
Here.
Regent Hall. Here. Regent Jones.
Here.
Regent Klein. Here. Regent Levzo. Here. Regent Manydietz.
Here.
Regent Mueller.
Here.
Regent Peterson. Here. Regent Plant.
Here.
Regent Stanford Taylor. Regent Tiedemann.
Here.
Regent Walsh.
Here.
Regent Woodmansee.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, good morning. We're going to start this morning's meeting by honoring a friend and a personal colleague whose time on this board ended when he received, well, perhaps a better offer. To present a resolution of appreciation for Regent Tony Evers' service to the University of Wisconsin System and the Board of Regents, and to introduce our current governor, I'm pleased to call on Regent Ed Manydietz to share some thoughts and to read the resolution of appreciation for Governor Evers this morning. Regent Manydietz.
Good morning. Thank you, Regent President Peterson. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. These are always what I found to be interesting and exciting and fun things to do as a regent. I first met Governor Evers 10 years ago during the start of my first term. We met in a meeting much like this, and over the next several meetings, months, and years, I came to get to know Governor Evers as, at that time, he was the state superintendent of public education, and he had to be an ex officio member of this board. And when we sat and talked, I learned that we were about the same age, and we both grew up in towns that were about the same size. We both were educated in our college years and our post-college years here in Wisconsin. We grew up during the 50s and 60s, and that we had certain ideas and thoughts that probably reflected how we grew up during that time. Now, I spent, just so you know, Governor, I spent like 6 hours writing, rewriting, and doing this, and I'm abandoning it right now. So I learned that when we grew up together, we grew up, obviously not in the same city, not together, but at the same time. A time that was in the early 60s, one where you had certain things you could count on. You could count on if you did something wrong, you'd be punished for it, and you didn't have an excuse. If you did something right, you wouldn't be praised for it. It was expected. If you needed help, you could ask for it, and then someone would give it to you. You learned that, and you could count on the fact that in Wisconsin in January, it was going to be below zero most of the month. You could count on having a few 100-degree days in August. You could count on the Packers winning championships, and you could count on your family helping you through hard times. And then the mid-'60s and late '60s occurred, and everything that we thought and learned and felt started to change. Our leaders were being assassinated. There were civil rights marches because people were sick and tired of being treated the way they were being treated, things that I didn't know about and we didn't know about growing up away from that. We learned that people were tired of the war and protested it. We learned that students were passionate, that's a word you'll hear later, about being in that war and about what we should do about getting out of it. We learned that people could go to the moon. We learned all kinds of things that kind of messed us up. I mean, it messed me up, and I don't know about the governor because he's a pretty steady guy, but it changed our belief system. It made us think differently. We couldn't count on things. People were non-conforming. People were making free love. By the way, that never happened for me. People had long hair. People dressed the way they wanted to dress. People didn't go to church. People started acting differently and doing things differently than the way we did them. And so we had to change. Some people changed, some people didn't change. but some people became passionate about it. And I know that we all know what passion is. Yesterday in the Education Committee meeting, we saw and heard a Professor Johnson, I believe his name was, that was absolutely passionate about economics. I don't know how you do that because I'm not passionate about something like that, but he is, and he's amazing. And I thought at first it was an act and that he was just doing it for us, but no, that's the way he is. He believes in that. He's passionate about it. So when you see someone that's passionate, it's palpable. You can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it. It gets you right here when you're seeing it. And that's one thing that I believe that Tony has is passion for education. And it's in everything that he does. A teacher, a superintendent of schools, all the way up to the highest office overseeing public education in Wisconsin and being on the Board of Regents. And how is that passion evident? It's evident, I saw in the meetings that we attended together, where he would talk about things that were important to him and to this system, and he would articulate it in a measured and quiet way, but you knew that he was serious about it. He was serious about shared governance, about the Wisconsin idea. He cared with passion about education being available for everybody in the state that wanted it. He was passionate about diversity, about affordability, about safe campuses for all that live and work and go to school on the campuses. He believed in fairness regarding compensation, and he was passionate in talking about those during some meetings when it wasn't a popular subject and it wasn't going to be something that he was going to sway us on, that is, us, the regents, on at that particular moment. But he still made his feelings known, which I admire someone with passion like that. And I wish that I had that sort of passion, and it's a good thing to have in our leaders. I really think that if you were here during the time that Tony was a regent, you would have seen all of those things, and you would have realized that he has the best interests of our system at heart when he does and acts certain ways. Now, I'll read the resolution. Resolution of Appreciation, Regent Tony Evers. Whereas Dr. Anthony Tony S. Evers served as the 26th State Superintendent of Public Education and an ex officio regent of the University of Wisconsin system from July 2009 to January 2019, and whereas Tony has served the students, parents, and citizens of Wisconsin for more than 35 years, including as an educator, principal, and a district administrator, and whereas Tony championed equal education and supported public schools as essential to sustainable, innovative, and long-term economic growth and workforce development for Wisconsin communities, and whereas Tony served on numerous standing committees, including the Education Committee, more than 9 years, 1 year as vice chair, on the Committee on Student Discipline, and on other student appeals for more than 7 years, the Capital Planning and Budget Committee for more than 6 years, as well as the Teaching Excellence and Diversity Awards committees. And whereas he helped select top UW leaders as a member of Special Chancellor Search Committees for UW-Milwaukee, UW-Stout, and former UW colleges and UW extensions. And whereas Tony supported Course Options, Wisconsin's dual enrollment program, which allows high school students to take college coursework and earn credits before graduating high school. And whereas Tony is a proud alumnus of UW-Madison, where he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees, as well as a doctorate in educational administration. And whereas Tony is bringing his considerable educational and administrative experience and talents to his new role as governor of the state of Wisconsin, be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin system hereby offers thanks and commends to Dr. Anthony Evers for his many life achievements, his outstanding support of students of all ages, and his exceptional service to the citizens of Wisconsin.
Well, thanks everybody, and thanks Ed for the kind words. I just have to validate something. This free love thing that didn't enter my life either. It may at some time, but it sure hasn't yet. The other thing that I'd like to say is that the Regents, the experience I had as a Board of Regent member, and lots of different regions that were part of my life as a regent back then, and some of them still are, some of you still are. The notion of public service sometimes is an overused word, but I can tell you, and this is especially for the people that have never been on the Board of Regents, the work is really damn hard, and it takes a lot of time, and if you want to be a good regent, it takes your life in a very significant way. So I appreciate your good work. It's hard work and it's important work, and the work that you do is, and I'll get into this in a minute, it's absolutely critical to succeeding as a state. The other thing that I learned as a Board of Regent is I was on the short end of a lot of 2 to 19 votes and 1 to 19 votes. And so as governor with the Republican legislature, thanks for preparing me for that. And there's truth to this, believe me. But what I want to talk about, a couple things. One about the Wisconsin idea and what it continues to mean, and some issues that I'm hopeful that the Board of Regents and the University of Wisconsin system will help us out as a state. But it was real interesting, as is the Board of Regents, and you may, for those of you that were on the board, you may remember this. For those of you who weren't on the board, you likely remember it. It was in the press for some time about changing the definition of the Wisconsin idea, and a lot of push and pull and discussion about it. And I just found it an interesting conversation because it did remind people that we do have a Wisconsin idea, and it does mean something. And the fact that it was meant, there were some folks that wanted to change it, led people to talk about that. And I think that was outstanding, and it obviously stayed the same. But what it kicked off in my mind is it's been parcel of what Wisconsin's about. And occasionally we'll have a major political and policy level discussion about that. And we end up kind of back in the same place. And I think that's really important. The idea that education should influence people's lives beyond the boundaries of the classroom, and that the University of Wisconsin system, whether your campus, 2 years institution, the system, extension, it doesn't matter. We need help at the state level. And the University of Wisconsin system, the research that's done, and the young people that enter your institutions play a role in solving those things. And I'll just give you a few small examples. The dairy crisis, they're helping us out. Rural economic development, advanced manufacturing, shortages of teachers, bad health outcomes for people of color and people and poor people. Future transportation, what's that going to look like? All those thorny problems are part of your work. Solving that, looking towards the future, and I know money and the things that tuition, and enrollments, and all those things that are kind of in people's on the surface, that people think about the University of Wisconsin system. But underneath that is all this stuff. And we need your consistent and ongoing help to solve those things. And I think also to fulfill our Wisconsin idea, we obviously need skilled and competent graduates. But these graduates need to be good citizens, critical thinkers. They need to know how to understand and do understand the values of the arts, the important part of our economy, making sure that young people vote, are caring, help their neighbors, and Wisconsin nice. Now, you may believe that's Wisconsin nice isn't a thing, but it is. Just the other day, I received a call from the Premier of Ottawa, and his daughter was driving through Wisconsin, and she got stuck in a snowstorm and got off the road by mistake. She was head first into a ditch. Two young folks came by, drove by, spent a couple hours pulling her out. She took them to McDonald's for a treat, and he called me and said, Wisconsin nice is a thing. And Wisconsin nice is a thing. So having a well-rounded education is important. I believe STEM without humanities or vice versa cannot allow our state to move forward. We need to continue. This is all about the Wisconsin idea. So that's that. Now I want to talk about something that keeps me awake at night. So you need to help me sleep better. What keeps me awake at night is this issue that we are a declining population state. Right now it's stagnating, but at some point in time it's going to be people my age is going to be almost the majority of the people in the state. Obviously that's impacting enrollment and all that. But I believe we have to come to grips, and I think individual campuses have dealt with this issue of diversity, but we have to come to grips with the fact that if we want to keep young people in the state, if we want to bring young people to Wisconsin and solve immigration problems, the state of Wisconsin is not going to look like it looks now. When I grew up in Plymouth, Wisconsin, the first experience I had with a person of color when I was working in a canning factory. And there was two Mexican Americans, one on each side of me. That's it. Well, for many places in the state, dealing with diversity still is a difficult issue. And it is still a difficult issue on our campuses. So, and I know people are working hard to make that happen, and I know that the work that Eve and Ed have done previously on this issue, and we're going to revisit it. And I know it pops up at different campuses at different times, but this is a statewide issue. And I'm encouraging the University of Wisconsin system to be proactive, not only in your campuses and helping people understand how important diversity is and how important diversity is to our future as a state, not just your enrollment, the future of our state. Our future workforce is not going to look like it does today. And if we don't help people understand how that diversity makes us smarter and makes us a better state, and we need your help to make that happen, folks. And I know, as I said before, it's an issue on campuses that'll pop up every once in a while, but those folks that go to your campuses came from our villages and cities all across the state of Wisconsin. And so as we move forward as a state, whether I'm governor or anybody else is governor, this is going to take some heavy lifting that I'm encouraging the University of Wisconsin system to take a lead on this. It's got tough work. When you talk about diversity, a lot of it's inside here, and it's not going to be necessarily changed by policies, procedures, laws. It's going to be changing the way people think and believe. And there is no better use of the Wisconsin idea than that. So thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Once again, on behalf of the board, I want to thank Governor Evers for his service. Let's give him one more round of applause. Okay, let's move on with the meeting. The records of the December 5th and 6th, 2019 Board of Regents meetings and the 21st of January Executive Committee meetings have been provided. May I have a motion to approve these records? May I have a motion?
Second.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The report of the Wisconsin Technical College System Board has also been provided this morning. Are there any comments or questions? Okay. I'd like to offer a brief update on our ongoing searches. First, the 13-member UW Green Bay Chancellor Search and Screen Committee, led by Chair Bob Atwell and Vice Chair Biology Professor Michael Draney, held its semi-finalist interviews last week. The Special Region Committee will announce finalists later this month, with further interviews and on-campus visits to follow. Thank you, Bob. The search for a successor to UW System President Ray Cross is also well underway. To provide us a status report, I'll call on Regent Vice President Michael Grebe, who chairs the search committee, to bring us up to date. Regent Grebe.
Thank you, President Peterson. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to report on the progress that's been made in the search for our 8th UW System President. First, and perhaps most importantly, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the many people and constituencies who've taken the time to share their thoughts and views about this search, whether through stakeholder listening sessions, through comments submitted on the Presidential Search website, or directly to me or other committee members. Thank you. A number of significant trends and themes were identified through that shared input, and that direction has helped the committee in this process, including by focusing on our understanding of the challenges and opportunities facing our system, as well as the corresponding attributes we're looking for in our next president. Those ideas are reflected in the position description, and that input will continue to be important as we move forward. That shared input is also very important and helpful to our search firm, Storbeck Search and Associates, as they begin to build the applicant pool. On behalf of the committee, let me once again offer our appreciation for your interest, engagement, and support as we undertake the responsibility of identifying and selecting our next president. We've now finalized the president's position prospectus that describes the responsibilities of the UW System President and the qualities we're seeking in prospective candidates. As described in more detail in the prospectus, we're seeking an exceptional leader for our system who will leverage our strengths and help us navigate the multiple challenges facing institutions of higher education today. The prospectus is posted on the Presidential Search website and will be shared by the search firm with candidates who may be interested in this leadership position. Let me offer two quick off-script notes. First, some of you may have noted that our search firm, Storbeck, has recently announced that they're affiliating with a larger search firm. I had a conversation earlier this week with Shelley Storbeck, and based on our discussion, I'm comfortable that the change in affiliation will have absolutely no adverse impact on our search or their ability to provide services to us, and if anything, it may increase the pool of candidates that we're able to pick from. Second, apropos of the governor's comments, I'd encourage people to take a look at the prospectus, and I think, and I hope, you'll find that the concept of the Wisconsin idea is woven throughout the challenges, opportunities, and attributes section of the prospectus. That was one theme that I think we all brought to this process, but was reinforced significantly through the listening sessions. As the next step in this process, Storbeck is proceeding with identifying and recruiting that pool of candidates. The deadline for receipt of applications is March 15, which will arrive very quickly. I would note again that the search website includes a link offering the opportunity for people to submit names directly to Storbeck for consideration, and I encourage people to submit names of people they believe we should be considering. Although there are some details that are still being finalized, we expect that interviews for this position will occur during April and May, to be followed by the naming of a new president in late spring. In short, I'm pleased with the progress we're making related to this critical leadership position. As I've said before, there is no job of the Board of Regents or any board that's more important than selecting the leader of the organization. And I want to thank the committee members for their work to this point and thank them in advance for their dedication to this vital and time-consuming process over the next few months. President Peterson, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Greeby, and thank you for your leadership. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Regent Gerald Whitburn for his deep commitment and many years of service to this board. Regent Whitburn recently decided to step down after almost a decade of service. As I said several weeks ago, Regent Whitburn's commitment to his role as a regent was extraordinary. His passion and experience will be missed by those who served with him. Regent Whitburn is a public servant who's always advocated for Wisconsin students and the integrity for public higher education. We will formally present a resolution of appreciation to Regent Whitburn at a future meeting, but for now, we want to reiterate our sincere thanks. I expect the governor's office will name a successor to Regent Whitburn shortly. Moving on, in other updates, our All in Wisconsin tour resumes next week with a visit to UW-Milwaukee on Friday. This is our 10th university to date, and we'll be visiting the remaining campuses in the coming months. Chancellor Mone, we look forward to the opportunity to meet with some of the university's business and community leader partners next week. Finally, one last item. I'd like to remind the Regents that the UW system's 17th annual Research in the Rotunda is coming up on March 11th at the Capitol from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The event highlights the research achievements of our undergraduate students from every UW institution, and it's a great opportunity for them to share their passion with our legislators and others. This event is a great chance to meet these talented students and their dedicated faculty advisors. I encourage all of you to attend. And with that, that concludes my President's report for today, and I'll turn the floor over to President Cross.
Thank you, Regent President Peterson. Good morning. I'm going to start my report this morning with the Student Spotlight. The intent of these regular presentations is to help all of us better understand what it means to be a student on one of our campuses, how students got here and why they came to us, what they're working on, what they hope to do in the future, what issues are important to them, etc. The Student Spotlight is a chance to see the UW from their perspective and to remind all of us why we are here. With that, it's my pleasure to call on Chancellor Blank to introduce our student in the spotlight. Chancellor Blank.
It is my pleasure this morning to introduce Kevin Crosby, who is a senior from Maryland, majoring in nutritional sciences. Let me start by telling you about the program that brought him here to the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Kevin is one of our POSSE scholars. POSSE is a national program that identifies students in major cities around the country who have high academic and leadership potential, but who might be overlooked in the traditional college application process. The majority of these students are from groups who are underrepresented on this campus. Many are first generation in their family to go to college, and many qualify for Pell Grants. Students come to an institution in POSSEs, supportive multicultural teams of 10 students each. The name comes from a student who in the first round said, "I would never have dropped out of college had I had my POSSE with me." UW-Madison was the first public research university in the United States to partner with POSSE, and that was 18 years ago. We now have POSSEs coming to UW from 4 different cities. That's 40 incoming POSSE freshmen every year. And we have 352 POSSE alumni working here in Wisconsin and around the world in nearly every field that you can think of. Our POSSE scholars are among our best and brightest students. As you will see this morning, Kevin Crosby is outstanding academically, and he's taken full advantage of the opportunities that he's had here at the university. He's been deeply engaged in biomedical research. He's worked in the community as Badger volunteer. He's volunteered in the emergency department of the Veterans Hospital. He's been a peer tutor in the Physics Learning Center and in the Department of Biochemistry. He was a member of the Badger crew team, and he's a long-distance runner and a trumpet player. And this year, Kevin was one of 3 UW-Madison students to be selected as a finalist for the nation's most prestigious academic honor, the Rhodes Scholarship. In short, Kevin has made the most of his time at UW, and I'm absolutely delighted to have him here at the Board of Regents. Kevin.
Thank you, Chancellor Blank. Good morning. My name is Kevin Crosby, and I am from I am in my 4th and final year here at UW-Madison. I'm from the DC metropolitan area. They're called the DMV, affectionately by people familiar with the culture. Specifically, I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. There is where I gained my foundation and my purpose. While my home is not perfect, I can say that I've always felt supported and understood by my community. Growing up around people who looked like me, spoke like me, had similar experiences as me, this gave me a sense of belonging and worthiness. While there aren't as many people in Madison who sound like me or look like me, I feel that many of the organizations I've had the opportunity to be a part of, primarily the Posse Foundation, have given me an opportunity to retain a semblance of the rich culture and diversity I became accustomed to in my youth. The Posse Foundation's full tuition scholarship not only provided a way for me to attend a world-class university here in Madison, but also connected me with an amazing network of individuals, each striving for success in their own way. Posse pushed me to discover what true success meant in my life, and for that, I'm immensely grateful. I've always had an interest in biology. Thankfully, I was blessed with a family that fostered my scholastic interest from early on, from supplying me with National Geographic magazines in elementary school, supporting me through Science Bowl competitions and countywide science fair competitions in middle school. My family, specifically my mother, my father, my brother, allowed me to hone and refine my scholastic interests. An adolescent health struggle served to further refine these interests, as my interest in nutrition initially began in my teens as I searched for methods to lose weight. This influenced my decision to pursue a bachelor's degree in nutritional sciences, to which I've added a certificate in environmental studies. I now know that nutritional practices and health outcomes are intimately related to the state of the environment through exploration of topics ranging from infant mortality to the environmental factors that impact the transmission of zoonoses, coronavirus. My academic programs have built a foundation for my professional interest in public health and equity. And Madison, in turn, has provided the backdrop for the exploration of these interests. From conducting clinical research at UW Health, to volunteering as an emergency department volunteer at VA Hospital, to working in my freshman dorm as a cultural coalition coordinator, I feel that the opportunities I've been able to pursue at UW are ones that are only unique to the city. These experiences have enriched me more than I could have imagined prior to coming to Wisconsin, and for that, I'm immensely grateful. The most gratifying group of opportunities I've participated in Madison have been related to my efforts to pass knowledge on to those younger than myself and redefine the narrative surrounding Black success. Too often, when I tell people that I go to UW-Madison, they ask, what position or what sport? Automatically assuming that a Black man in college must be involved in some form of collegiate athletics. Unfortunately, this experience is not unique to myself. Many Black men have had these same experiences and been asked these same questions. Questions that speak to the inability of some to see Black achievement beyond entertainment or athletics. I see my work in both local elementary schools as a badge of volunteers, mentor, and my position at UW Health as a hope mentor, as ways to eliminate the social stigma surrounding Black excellence. These positions have allowed me to influence the next generation of leaders before negative stereotypes have their opportunity to deter them from what they are destined for. Everything I've been a part of in Madison has prepared me to move forward in my journey. Since early childhood, I've wanted to have a tangible impact on the health and wellness of my community. I now look to satisfy that desire by becoming a physician. In the fall, I plan on making the next step in my path to medicine, as I will, upon securing funding, begin the public health master's program at Cambridge University. This will add a global perspective to my interest in combating health inequities. In the public health master's program, I will work under the tutelage of Dr. Simon Griffin in the Prevention of Diabetes and Related Metabolic Disorders in High-Risk Groups program. My time at Cambridge will prepare me for my career in medicine by improving my understanding of the implications of individual healthcare decisions on the status of the health of the population. In the next part of my journey, I look forward to continuing what I started here in Madison. As I expand my network and forge new relationships, I hope to embody the Wisconsin idea and use my education to positively influence the lives of people not just inside but outside of academia. While I will not be in Madison much longer, it gives me great joy to know that my work here will continue after I leave. I will forever be indebted to this institution and the greater Madison community for all the amazing times I've been afforded over the past 4 years. These experiences made me into what I am today and make me proud of my identity as a Badger. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. As you change the world, you're changing us, so thank you. Turning now to our legislative updates. First on the state front, while the legislative session will end in the next few weeks, there is still plenty of activity in the Capitol. The Speaker's task force on water quality has generated a number of bills impacting water quality in Wisconsin, including several bills that directly impact the UW system. AB 800, AB 801, both make critical investments in UW system institutions to support water quality research and community service, including $2 million for the Freshwater Collaborative, a system-wide effort to leverage the combined research efforts of all of our campuses. Several of our institutions testified last week in support of these bills, and we appreciate the legislators who brought these bills forward and will continue to work with those folks to secure passage this spring. We're also pleased that Governor Evers and the legislature have announced several initiatives focused on rural and dairy issues, including an investment in the UW Extension system to support agriculture and rural needs across Wisconsin. On the federal front, we are currently updating our federal agenda, which annually identifies and defines the system's priorities at the federal level, both as individual institutions and as a system. Regents and chancellors will have the opportunity to review this agenda before it is finalized and presented to our congressional delegation in March. The U.S. Department of Education has proposed new regulations that could result in required changes to how institutions respond to concerns of sexual misconduct. As you know, the UW system has a history of taking robust measures to address and prevent sexual misconduct. And we've provided comments on the proposed regulations to the Department of Education in preparation for the release of these new OCR regulations. The UW System Office of Compliance and Integrity has pulled together a group of key stakeholders with representation from a number of campuses, the system, as well as the Office of General Counsel, as well as Wisconsin DOJ, to develop a response plan once we receive those changes. So we will keep you informed. In other news, we are continuing a process of more closely engaging with Wisconsin's tribes. Our meetings to date have been productive and helpful, and that includes meeting with the Potawatomi, the Lac du Flambeau, the Menominee tribes. Next week, we're looking forward to meeting with both the Bad River and Mole Lake bands of the Lake Superior Chippewa. We also plan to attend the State of the Tribe speech at the Capitol on February the 18th, as well as a reception hosted by the sovereign tribal nations following the State of the Tribe speech. Many of us have been fielding questions on the global health emergency resulting from the coronavirus, so I want to give an update on the university's response. Like any global university, the UW system has faculty, staff, and students who travel internationally for both personal and business reasons. And as you no doubt heard, and as Chancellor Blank reported yesterday, there is a single confirmed case of coronavirus in Dane County involving a person who recently traveled to China. I want to repeat, as Chancellor Blank shared yesterday, we have no evidence that the person has recently been on the UW campus other than to report directly to the UW hospital. On January 22nd, the UW Systems Emergency Operations Center began to meet and will likely continue to do so for weeks. This team includes health directors, risk managers, public information officers, global health experts, and of course, emergency management teams. The purpose of the EOC is to assess the risk of the coronavirus to faculty, staff, and students, to work to reduce those risks, share up-to-date information with the campuses on this rapidly developing situation. In particular, we are working with our universities to monitor reports and recommendations from the Center for Disease Control, the state's Department of Health Services, and local health departments, who are all working together to advise health practitioners and health systems on how to respond to the virus, and they lead the evaluation of any suspected cases. Complicating the situation, we recognize this is peak flu season, which means our health centers are busy addressing common flu. Most experts say influenza remains a greater risk to most people, including our students, faculty, and staff. So, wash your hands. I learned that in kindergarten, as they say, right? Finally, as Wisconsin celebrates Black History Month this month and later today, our Board of Regents will present its 12th Annual Diversity Awards. We think it's appropriate for our regular tour of news around the system to focus on our ongoing efforts on multiple fronts to promote a more inclusive and diverse campus experience for our students, faculty, and staff. You've heard us mention throughout this session, the theme for this month's meeting is inclusivity, and it's being reinforced by speaker after speaker, including the governor. So with that, I would like to turn your attention to the big screen. So news from around the system.
UW-Madison's South Madison partnership will soon have 4 times the space to support its growth as a community resource. Currently, more than 1,000 people each month take part in the partnership's diverse programming, from educational courses to health and legal services. A new Odyssey Family Learning Center will serve whole families, empowering them to transform their lives. Student athletes had an opportunity to give back during the UW Superior Athletic Department's recent 4th annual Week of Giving. In December, Yellow Jackets did everything from wrapping gifts for the university's giving tree, ringing bells for the Salvation Army, collecting items for a local food pantry, to hosting a free community holiday party with activities and games for all. That's the spirit of giving in action. UW-Whitewater continues to be a national leader in providing exceptional services to students with disabilities. More than 1,000 students identify as having a disability at UW-Whitewater. This past semester, the campus launched the LIFE program, or Learning is for Everyone, which provides young adults who have an intellectual disability with a complete college experience. UW Stout is helping to address a statewide shortage of special education teachers. An alternative certification program has trained a dozen new teachers to date. One of those new teachers is Nick Grunseth, an Eau Claire TV meteorologist who switched careers to work with special needs teens at Chippewa Falls Senior High School. UW-Oshkosh is also responding to the growing need for special ed teachers. The university has launched 2 new programs for those seeking to re-specialize, add a license, or find an alternative route to licensing. Special education major Roxanne Kekareka recently completed her student teaching hours, building positive relationships with students to help them feel safe and comfortable each day, ready to learn. A familiar face at UW-Stevens Point was recently named one of Wisconsin's most influential Black leaders. Al Thompson, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, personifies a key strength of UW-Stevens Point, listening to students and helping them succeed. Thompson's motto is service above self, which has helped to shape his leadership style. UW River Falls is bringing essential student services together under one roof with the grand reopening of David Rodley Hall. Originally built in the 1960s for student dining, the recently modernized Rodley Hall is now home to departments vital to academic success, including financial aid, career services, a writing center, and even a coffee shop. The inclusive new space will help students at every stage of their academic journey. UW-Platteville will once again host the Midwest Culturally Inclusive Conference to be held later this month. The conference, which has attracted as many as 1,000 attendees from across the Midwest, will offer students, faculty, staff, teachers, community members, and others an opportunity to support and celebrate their own unique identities and those of others. This year's conference theme is Upholding Humanity and Dignity of All. Walking to school safely can be a concern, especially in busy cities. UW Parkside students in Dr. John Ward's Geographic Information Systems course are using GIS mapping to develop a safe walking route, known as a walking school bus, for Kenosha children and their adult volunteers. With feedback on the plan from parents, teachers, and volunteers, and help from UW Parkside, Brass Elementary students will now have a safe way to get to school and succeed. Over the past 5 years, a UW Lacrosse Hate Bias Response Symposium, led by the university's Campus Climate Unit, has grown and become a unique resource for prevention, response, and healing far beyond the campus community. This year, diversity officers, LGBTQ+ directors, counselors, students, and others from 11 states and dozens of schools and organizations came together at the symposium to learn how to make their communities safer, more inclusive, and just. With a 20-year history of teaching First Nations education and feedback from First Nations communities, UW Green Bay has launched its first ever doctoral program. The fully enrolled First Nations Education Doctorate Program, the only one of its kind in the state of Wisconsin, draws upon indigenous teaching methods of elders and oral scholars as well as faculty expertise. Students describe it as intense, rigorous, and transformative. UW-Eau Claire's Blue Gold Beginnings, which was recently recognized nationally, works to inspire underrepresented, low-income, and first-generation students to believe that a college education is possible. The program not only motivates K-12 students, but also supports current Blue Golds, improving their retention, grade point averages, and graduation rates. A collaborative effort to improve student achievement and close the equity gap in Milwaukee is showing early signs of success. A partnership among UW-Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Area Technical College, and Milwaukee Public Schools, called M-Cubed, is helping to improve graduation rates, provide better support to parents, and increase participation in the early college program. The partnership has a goal worth coming together for, striving to help all students be successful by making education more inclusive.
Well, as you can see, we're doing a number of things, though there is much yet to be done. And I would add that part of the mission statement as expressed in Chapter 36 is for the University of Wisconsin to improve the human condition. Though it's not expressly stated in that line, it is implied that it is to improve the human condition for all the people of Wisconsin. And that means we must be more inclusive. With that, President Peterson, I turn back to you.
Thank you, President Cross. Let's move on to our committee business, item number 6. Before we start with today's committee reports, are there board members who wish to declare any conflicts of interest with today's agenda? Regent Walsh?
Yes, President Peterson, I would like to recuse myself from the vote regarding the MG&E contract to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest.
MG&E, thank you. Any other regents? Regent Levzow?
Yes, I would also like to put myself with potential conflict of MG&E.
MG&E as well. Any other regents? Regent Jones?
Yes, thank you. I would like to recuse myself from the Business and Finance Committee report, particularly item H regarding GlaxoSmithKline.
Glaxo. Okay. Clerk, you got it. Thank you, regents. At this time, I'll call upon Regent Atwell to present a report of the Research, Economic Development, and Innovation Committee. Regent Atwell.
Thank you, Regent President Peterson. The READY Committee reviewed and approved the minutes of the December 5th meeting, and the committee members heard 3 presentations. First, we heard from UW-Madison's Women in Science and Engineering, or WISE. They gave an illuminating and insightful update on its program. WISE is a residential learning community based in Waters Residence Hall, which is a welcoming environment for women interested in science, technology, engineering, or math. And the purpose is to build academic and personal connections with each other and with UW-Madison staff and faculty who share those interests. UW-Madison Provost John Carl Schultz explained that WISE is coming up on its 25th anniversary since its inception. He finds the program to be profoundly important, especially during the soul-searching student journey, and couldn't be more grateful for the support it provides. We then heard from Dr. Sue Babcock, WISE faculty co-director, professor and chair of materials science and engineering, who discussed the benefits of the program, which include a diverse and dynamic community of women interested in STEM, and which fosters a sense of belonging and confidence to succeed. Small group discussions with women STEM faculty and local female STEM professionals, research and career path presentations by women in STEM, and peer mentoring. We then heard from Brittany Osterman, a WISE student program lead in Industrial and Systems Engineering Junior, who participated in the program and has then gone on to lead, to mentor, both mentor and then lead. And she spoke about her experience in the program and expressed her fondness for the concrete connections that it provides. Our second presentation was an update on the IDEA Advanced program from Dr. Adela Yambin, Business Development Concierge, and involved presentations by two recent IDEA Advanced graduates. Dr. Yambin again kind of refreshed us on how IDEA Advance, with the inclusion of alumni eligibility, now supports professional innovators and existing small businesses as they learn the principles of lean startup to explore new products and new markets. IDEA Advance is funded both by the University of Wisconsin system and the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and it's administered by the Institute of Business and Entrepreneurship Center for Technology Commercialization. We were then joined by two recent graduates of the IDEA Advance program. Lindsay Roddy, who's both a registered nurse and CEO of Roddy Medical, described her journey with IDEA Advance. Ms. Roddy identified a continuous hazard with disorganized medical tubing during her job as a nurse. With the help of IDEA Advance, her solution, the medical tubing organizer, went through a bunch of different iterations, and it was eventually designed and patented in a form that is gaining market acceptance and validity. She came up with the tagline, "We help patients move safely," and she's been making great progress in her product development. We then heard from Randy Clark, another recent IDEA Advance graduate, who discussed how crucial it was for him to be part of this program. Having experience in agriculture and with a mechanical engineering degree, Mr. Clark built a specialty ditch mower to meet the needs of public works departments by reducing total cost of equipment, operation, and maintenance, and effectiveness. IDEA Advance extended a business model canvas approach to give Mr. Clark a new way to look at product development, networking, and the confidence to enter a completely new market. Lastly, we were joined by Missy Hughes, the Secretary and CEO of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. She was appointed to her new position in October of 2019, and she's described her time on the job, which so far has been traveling around the state, getting to know the department, understanding the work that was done in advance of her tenure. And she explained she's in a unique position, or maybe not unique, but different position of transitioning the organization that was previously existed under a single administration for the previous 8 years. She's respectful of the work that has been done by her predecessors and is trying to help the WEDC not to reinvent itself, but to build on the work that was done. Ms. Hughes affirmed WEDC's overall vision and direction and said it will be important for the organization to be an effective voice for the Wisconsin economy and to support strategies that reflect the realities of the marketplace while being adaptive, innovative, and resilient. We're looking forward to working with Ms. Hughes and with being a good partner with WEDC in any way we can. Regent President Peterson, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Atwell. I'll now call upon Regent Manydeeds to present a report of the Audit Committee. And if I could, I would just mention that Ed has taken on this new responsibility as chair, and I'm certainly grateful for that. For some of you longer-term board members, you'll recall Ed previously chaired the Capital Planning and Budget Committee, which was commonly referred to as the most interesting committee for all of us. And I'm quite confident that the Audit Committee will now take on that role. So Regent Jones, consider yourself forewarned. Regent Manydeeds.
Thank you, President Peterson. Actually, this is the most exciting committee in the system. The Audit Committee met yesterday morning. Chief Audit Executive Lori Stortz reviewed the progress to date on the fiscal year 2020 audit plan. She confirmed that her office is making solid progress and expects to bring additional audit reports before the committee in April. Ms. Stortz indicated that planning for the 2021 audit plan will begin this month. She then went and provided a high-level summary of the results of audits recently issued by the Office of Internal Audit. This included the Business Operations and Auxiliaries, IT Procurement, Do It Enterprise Business Services, or EBS, and the NCAA agreed-upon procedures audits. Overall, she was comfortable with the management's responses. Next, Audit Committee received an update regarding internal controls and enterprise risk management from Ruth Anderson, Associate Vice President for Administrative Services, and Kristen Roman, the Chief of the UW-Madison Police Department. They discussed emergency management planning and the steps being taken across the UW system to create safer, less vulnerable campuses. Then we received a report from Ms. Anderson and Catherine Mayer, Associate Vice President of Information Security, discussed management's progress in response to the Plant Morgan finding regarding vendor management. They outlined for the committee the steps of the procurement process. Ms. Mayer discussed the vendor risk assessment process she and her team have undertaken. Katie Ignatowski, Director of Compliance and Integrity, and Katie Patton, UW System Records Officer, provided information on public record compliance. They have created a new website as a resource for UW employees to utilize regarding records management and public record updates. The Audit Committee would urge the campuses to visit this website and to continue to identify parties on their campus who would be responsible for the over 400 compliance obligations that each campus has. I'd also like to recognize the UW Oshkosh campus because they've done this, they've completed. Congratulations, Oshkosh. Then Ms. Ignatowski gave an update to the committee and demonstrated the UW Systems Compliance Matrix tool, purpose of which is to house and track obligations across the system. She hopes to have the matrix fully functional by June of 2020. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Manydeeds. Now call upon Regent Mueller to present a report of the actions taken by the Business and Finance Committee. Regent Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Business and Finance Committee had another very full agenda. It began with a presentation from UW Vice Chancellor Laurent Heller on the topic of transforming administration and finance at UW-Madison. He focused on ways to improve employee engagement through mentoring and training and some innovative programs that they're starting. And under the Administrative Transformation Program umbrella, major improvements are planned in core administrative infrastructure and services in human resources, finance, and IT. UW System Administration's Associate Vice President and CIO, Stephen Hopper, provided two reports, one on the strategic plan for major technology projects, and another one, a legislatively required semi-annual report on UW System's large and vital information technology projects. That, again, is reported to the legislature. UW System Vice President for Finance, Sean Nelson, introduced several topics, including proposed non-resident undergraduate and a graduate tuition increase at 6 institutions. These changes will result in increases of between 1% and 5% for the various programs on 5 of our campuses. There was an outlier at UW-Milwaukee, and we discussed that at length. That's a larger increase for the UW-Milwaukee Masters in Occupational and Communication Science, but it relates totally to a reorganization of the credit plateau for that program. And the increase will bring the tuition better aligned with program costs. Vice President Nelson reported on the annual, semi-annual report of gifts, grants, and contracts. Good news here, up a 6.1% increase from the prior year. Federal awards also increased. Vice President Nelson requested the approval of guidelines for administration of the Wisconsin Merit Scholarship Program. This is a new program, and it's funded from interest income from the Normal School Fund, which is now available to us. Under statute, the scholarships have many requirements, including that they be based on merit only. They'll be provided in a one-time amount of $5,000 to the eligible students. As is typical, several contracts were considered. First, there was and is a UW-Madison sponsored research agreement with GlaxoSmithKline LLC. The UW Carbone Cancer Center will provide early stage evaluation of a new drug for the treatment of MS. Second, another agreement is with IBSS, International Business Sales and Services Corporation. This is a phase 2 of an existing agreement with the Space Science and Engineering Unit here on campus relating to software developed for the National Weather Service. Third, we heard of a contract with Genentech Incorporated. Under this fee-for-service agreement, the UW-Madison Fundus Photograph Reading Center will evaluate retinal images of the eye and provide related services to Genentech. A second contractual agreement with Genentech, another fee-for-service agreement, will evaluate, again, retinal images of the eye, but these related to patients with diabetes and macular degeneration. And finally, with regard to contracts, we approved paying Madison Gas and Electric $1.5 million to participate in a solar energy field located in Fitchburg. The cost of energy is locked in for 30 years and will help UW-Madison achieve its sustainable energy goals. UW System General Counsel Quinn Williams introduced 2 technical items: removing Regent Policy Document 31, student publications due to obsolescence, and Regent Policy Document 32, updated, an amendment to it, to modernize the policy to require the statement on all forms, this required statement that we have, on all forms of the student press, such as websites and other electronic media, not just referring to newspapers. The committee heard from UW System Vice President for Administration, Rob Kramer, on an amendment to Regent Policy document entitled Contracts with Research Companies. This document was approved by the executive committee of our board on January 21st to provide immediate coverage on pending contracts as a result of a law change, but with the understanding that this would come to our committee and for approval by the full board. It clarifies the responsibilities that university employees have if there's a perceived conflict of interest and streamlines that process. Dr. Shanita Brokenberg, UW System's Chief Financial Human Resources Officer, and 2 others shared with us next steps on the important title and total compensation project. The project continues to progress, although more slowly than planned, but it is working to develop a leaner, more up-to-date, coherent library of job titles in the system, completing a benefit analysis, and designing overall compensation to attract and retain talent across UW system. So in conclusion, Mr. President, I now move approval of items C and D relating to the major IT projects reports that I discussed. Item E, the proposed non-resident and undergraduate and graduate tuition increases at 6 campuses only. Item G, guidelines for the new merit scholarship program that's been made available to us. Items H, I, J, K, and L, the 5 contracts submitted by UW-Madison. Items N and O, the 2 technical items related to obsolete student publication policies. And item P, the new management and regent policy governing contracts with research companies.
Thank you, Regent Mueller. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I would second.
Thank you, Regent Bechtel. I'll remind folks we have conflicts declared for item H, GlaxoSmithKline, and item J with MG&E. With that, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. I'll now call on Regent Klein to present a report of the actions taken by the Education Committee. Regent Klein.
Thank you, Regent President Peterson. My report today will begin by highlighting 3 presentations received by the Education Committee because they demonstrate how our campuses fulfill the mission of the University of Wisconsin system. I would note we were busy and we had a 4-hour meeting in the allotted 1.5-hour time period. First, we had Vice President Maribel Sosa delivering her report, which included 3 topics. She talked about an overview of her leadership and the Office of Academic and Student Affairs and changes she proposes to make in that office. Next, she informed us that the Task Force for Advancing Teacher and Student Leadership will submit its report to the Education Committee June 4th, 2020. Finally, Vice President Maribel Sosa led an informative discussion regarding developmental education within the UW system. And this is required by Regent Policy Document 4.8, which is our remedial education policy. And I would note that many of us as regents look at that remedial education policy, the results of that we received in October, and give it consideration. So we put the spotlight on it, and we ended up with a presentation that was really quite excellent with Dr. Sheila Briggs, Assistant State Superintendent, Jennifer Camerood from DPI, Dr. Ben Passmore from our system, and then also Alice Holdmacher, who is Research Project Director for UW System. And we really gave it a good look and got the conversation started on how we can move the needle and how we can be an assist to our school districts across the state. It was really quite a terrific presentation. There's a resolution that was enacted as part of that conversation in your book, and I would just say we at the Education Committee are dedicated to continue to put the spotlight on this issue and how UW system can advance readiness for our high school students, as well as doing all that we've done in terms of co-requisites and bridge programming and assisting with our math initiative, as well as potentially a reading initiative. So we're trying to focus on it. We're trying to have good continued dialogue with DPI. The Education Committee also received an update on the Freshwater Collaborative. Of particular interest is that UW-Milwaukee Provost Johannes Britz was in attendance, as well as Dean Klum, and they announced that the search for the executive director is proceeding. They are now interviewing finalists. President Cross gave you an update on the legislative initiatives. That is making very good progress. And in closing, we received an inspiring post-campus presentation organized by University of Wisconsin-Madison, Provost Carl Schultz, and we had 3 professors in attendance that gave us a taste of what it's like to be a freshman in a large classroom setting at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I got to say, these professors were nothing less than outstanding. We had Dr. Roberts, a historian, Dr. Myers, a geoscientist, and Dr. Johnson, an economist. And we were all, I think, very impressed by the high impact excellent professors can make in these classrooms. We saw it firsthand. Now there's a summary of the items that were approved by the Education Committee yesterday. We approved changes to 5 Regent policy documents in support of the system's ongoing commitment to keep our policies up to date. We also approved a contract renewal for La Casa Esperanza Charter School for UW-Milwaukee, and we also approved a contract for the Milestone Democratic Charter School as submitted by UW administration. Finally, we had approval of 6 academic programs. Notably, 8 of our campuses joined in a collaborative program for an online Master of Cybersecurity. That program will be supported by the Extended Campus. UW-Madison gained approval for 2 degree programs, Master of Science in Clinical and Health Informatics, Bachelor of Business Administration, Business Supply Chain. UW-Platteville gained our approval to offer a Bachelor of Science in Data Science. University of Whitewater gained our approval for 2 master's degree programs. One was a Master of Science in Cybersecurity, and the second, a Master of Science in Instructional Design and Learning Technology. So, therefore, I move the following resolutions for adoption by the board. Resolutions C, 1 through 7, and resolutions E, E, F, and G, sub 3.
Thank you, Regent Klein. We have a motion on the floor. May I have a second? Thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Klein. Our final report for today will be from Regent Mike Jones, who will report on the actions taken by the CAP Planning and Budget Committee. Regent
Thank you,
Jones.
Regent President Peterson. Yesterday, the committee met and received a presentation by UW-Madison's Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration, Laurent Heller, on their capital program. The presentation provided an overview of their capital project program with examples of past and proposed projects. The committee also heard from Senior Associate Vice President Alex Rowe on the outcome of the December 2019 State Building Commission actions and also an update on the UW-Eau Claire Sonentag project. She provided an update regarding ongoing development of the 2021 through 2027 capital plan, which will be brought to the board in August 2020. The committee considered 10 resolutions. We approved Resolution B, brought by UW Green Bay, to sell the Chancellor's 1970s-era house, which is located about 10 minutes from campus. As the property needed extensive housing and site improvements, and there were other entertaining options available on campus, the university has decided that the property is no longer needed. Next, we considered Resolution C, brought by UW-Madison, to construct the $78.8 million Salary Hall addition and renovation project, which was recently enumerated. This project will provide programmatic and infrastructure upgrades that will improve functionality, efficiency, and building code compliance. The project provides for an additional 125 beds on an 11th floor, an accessible building entrance, improved and expanded common spaces, new bathrooms, a new connecting link, and consolidated mechanical equipment. On behalf of UW-Madison, the committee considered and approved Resolution D to increase the budget of the Babcock Hall Dairy Plant addition project in the amount of $25.6 million. $4 million in existing general fund supported borrowing, $5.5 million in gifts, and $16.2 million in cash. When the project is completed, it will house the Center for Dairy Research and the Dairy Pilot Plant. The project was released for bidding before all customized sanitary processing equipment as well as some of the donated equipment were fully documented. Because some of the equipment will be acquired during construction, the utility locations, electrical service, hub drains, and other facility changes will be undertaken as the design of the equipment is finalized. The budget increase will also allow the project team to finish construction of the specialized equipment space and replenish the contingency to accommodate any unforeseen conditions when the renovation of the dairy plant is complete in January 2021. We approved Resolution E, brought by UW-Madison, to increase the budget for the Meat Science and Animal Biologics Laboratory project by $7 million, including $2.8 million existing general fund supported borrowing, $2 million in gifts, and $2.2 million in cash. This project constructs a new facility to serve academic and research needs, as well as provide a site for training food inspectors. Because this facility is being built to accommodate multiple animal types, it requires custom designed and fabricated equipment that is flexible and which has necessitated modifications to the original design of the facility and its utility system. We next approved Resolution F, brought by UW-Madison, to enter into a lease of space for the Administrative Transformation Program, a multi-year effort to streamline administrative processes. The space was identified through a request for information completed in May 2019 and is available for immediate occupancy. On behalf of UW-Whitewater, we approved Resolution G to name the new residence hall Mayingan, which is Ojibwe for wolf. The name was chosen as a tribute to the diverse Native peoples who have lived on the lands on which the UW campus now exists. It was selected in cooperation with Mr. Wayne Labine, CEO of the Great Lakes Intertribal Council, and with the support of the Great Lakes Intertribal Council members. The committee then approved Resolution H, brought by the UW system, to construct the final 2017-19 classroom renovation and instructional technology improvement program project at UW Parkside. The project will remodel an existing instructional lab to support modern teaching pedagogy and provide a state-of-the-art active learning classroom. On behalf of the UW system, we approved Resolution I to construct 2 all-agency maintenance and repair projects for a total cost of $1.5 million at UW-Milwaukee and at UW-Whitewater. The committee also approved Resolution J, brought by the UW system, to modify Region Policy Document 19-14, naming of universities, facilities, and lands, to establish standards, criteria, and procedures for naming UW buildings, facilities, and land for corporations or other legal entities. And finally, we approved Resolution K, brought by UW-Madison, to complete the design and construct the managed zoology first floor Wang Lab renovation project at a cost of $1.1 million gift funds to meet the needs of a newly hired researcher. In conclusion, I'd like to move Resolutions B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K for approval.
Thank you, Regent Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you for the second. Discussion on this matter, or these matters. Regent Atwell.
Thank you, Regent President. I'd like to make several comments with respect to the Babcock project and to a lesser extent on the Meat and Muscle project. And I guess the first thing I want to say is that I support the proposed action of the committee. I will vote on behalf of it. And I'm confident that these projects will contribute to the health and vitality of the dairy industry and the meat industry. And they'll also reinforce the role that our universities play in supporting these vital industries. Secondly, I've been involved in many construction projects, both in the business that I co-founded and in the hundreds of projects that our organization has financed for our customers. I think I've seen just about everything that can go right and wrong with a construction project. In this type of activity, the worst outcome is to not complete a project once started. That's in the nature of building something. And then the second worst outcome is to mislead oneself and other interested parties about the cost and the duration of undertaking something on this scale. And the third point, the most important one, I think, is our universities have massive needs for capital investment, both for maintenance of existing structures and to undertake the kind of investment that's going to be necessary for the future, not of our institutions as much as for the future of the children that they will serve. The troubling thing here, just to be frank, is just for example with Babcock, project was launched and approved in 2012, and it won't be completed for 8 or 9 years after it was initiated. And the total cost of the project will be over 100% more than the initial approval. The biggest problem with this, because I understand that the funding is you know, Madison has proven itself to be an incredibly robust institution in raising money, and my understanding is that the money will come through Madison, which as Chancellor Blank informed us yesterday, completed over a $3 billion capital campaign. That's not the point. The point is that this recurrent theme, which I think my fellow regents, I certainly hear when I go out to the campuses, is the difficulty of planning and executing construction projects that are badly needed, whether it's renovation of existing structures or construction of new facilities that are vital to our mission. I've heard this theme over and over again. The problem with this situation is that it feeds into a narrative that is very unhelpful to our universities, the people who work there, and most of all to the students we serve. We have to do better because we owe it to ourselves and because we're going to be coming forth, I believe, in the next biennial budget with a very substantial capital request. And when we say we need money to do something, we need to have credibility. So I don't mean to be so dour. I love what we're doing. I'm very hopeful of what these projects will do. And I appreciate that the funding is coming from money raised by Madison primarily. I don't get to live in Bob World, but in Bob World, someone's calling a meeting and is going to be deeply listening to the major stakeholders in projects like this, not so that we can vilify people, but so we can figure out how we're going to do better for the people of Wisconsin and for ourselves. Who would I get in the room? Well, I've heard lots of different things. Frankly, I'm pleased in this particular situation that the parties seem to have come together without ripping each other apart. But I've heard the DOA is understaffed. I've heard that our universities don't know what they're doing when they do these projects. I've heard that the problem is the major contractors. I've heard that private investors don't understand how the process works, and while they support the project, they want to control too much of how it's done. And I've heard that the legislature, well, I don't want to say anything about the legislature because it doesn't pay to bite the hand that provides at least part of your food. So why can't someone be the adult here and call people in the room and say, let's do this better. Let's do the important things we need to do for the people of Wisconsin. Let's break down these barriers. Let's address maybe the truths or the urban myths about who plays what role. You know, I've dealt with a lot of contractors. I know very few of them that are interested in doing anything other than building a really good building efficiently and quickly. And I don't doubt there are others who have other interests, but most of the people, including the contractors that I've dealt with, are of goodwill. And so I guess my plea is, would someone be an adult and call the parties together, and if they need to kind of scratch each other's eyeballs out for a little while, let them do that, and then bring it together and figure out how can we do better. That's really what I'm asking for. And I don't know who that person is. I guess maybe, I don't know that the system head has the stature to be that person. I don't know if it's the governor. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's the speaker, assembly. I don't know. But we can do better, and we have to do better. Thank you very much. And I do support the project.
Thank you, Regent Atwell. Very well said. Other comments from board members? Regent Lebzow.
Thank you, Regent President Peterson and Chairman Jones, and thank you for your comments, Regent Atwell. I am very much in support of this project. I realize there have been probably some mistakes that have been made. I look at it, and I'm very sensitive to, yes, it is a lot of money that we're looking at here, a lot of dedication, a lot of investigation. But I look at this as the future with the dairy industry in Wisconsin. And just to give you a little bit of background, because obviously dairy is my and Chris's passion. It's a $45 billion industry in Wisconsin with 157,000 jobs. And most of you probably don't realize that 90% of the milk that from Wisconsin goes into cheese, and 90% of that is sold outside the state. We have 1,200 licensed cheesemakers, and every one of them is required to have a license, which other states do not. Thank you. Do not recognize. So this is the quality, the passion, the recognition that we have as an industry throughout the world. We are home to over 600 varieties of cheese. And with this Center for Dairy Research, it's vital that we have this project in place. It is the largest dairy food research center in the United States, and I've only been attending these meetings since July, and every single meeting we talk about research, research, and research. And this is what the research for the dairy industry really needs. CDR holds over 40 technical training courses throughout the year with 1,400 people trained. And when you look at cheese contests, we have the most medals. We have 78% of the 2019 U.S. cheese contest winners were from Wisconsin. We took the top 3 positions. These were people that were trained at CDR. We have 91 master cheesemakers. We have a program through CDR that recognizes the value of training people and having that specialty mark that brings a premium for those products when they get out into the market. 24% of the cheese produced in Wisconsin is a specialty cheese. That's another plus for our state. You know, we can point fingers and we can talk about what happened. Yes, there were probably some mistakes made, but that doesn't get us anywhere. I would prefer to look ahead and get something done. We don't want to end up with a building without equipment, because what we are building is a dairy plant that will provide research and equipment that is needed to propel us into the future. And we all know the statistics, you've all heard them, the amount of dairy farms that we're losing every day. You know, and with that, we're losing a generation that will not be coming back, and that really, really bothers me, that affects me. As a family dairy farm, I want my family to continue, as does Chris, and my son and Chris's family are looking at the future. We need innovation, we need research, we need new products, we need compliance, we need teachings as to how we can continue to be a leader in the dairy industry, and I really think that this project is one that will get us to that point. So I would close with, I just really see the value of this project that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Lebsow. Regent Bechtel.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Regent Atwell's comments are very well taken, and we did have that discussion in yesterday's committee meeting. We've had that discussion on other occasions, and so I think, you know, it's up to us to follow through on some of the comments made. But that is a past project, and it is a vital project, Babcock and the Meat Sciences buildings, and they are fully funded. These are final numbers. It's all in. Everything has been priced appropriately, so whatever may have happened in the past, I think we can move forward to support agriculture and our industry in the state. And that's really what I come at this from, is we make capital investments in our people, in our talent pipeline, and in our industries. Agriculture represents about $105 billion as an industry in this state every year. Dairy is about half of that economic impact at about $45.6 billion. And as Regent Lebsow has indicated, you know, one of the things that's unique about our dairy industry is that they are unique, that they are craftsmen, and that while they generate a lot of cheese, they generate world-class cheese. And that's really what this Babcock call is designed to do in terms of making sure that that high-quality, world-class type of product is developed, which results in what? Higher margins to our farmers and to our industry, which is vitally important. If you just do some basic math, and as we look at, if we are CapEx investors into these projects, which I believe we can be along with our state partners, there's about 157,000 jobs that are in the dairy industry, just in dairy, not in agriculture. So this CapEx investment would be about $462 per job. Now again, it's a CapEx investment over time, $462 per job just for that first year of jobs. If you look at CapEx in terms of the economic impact of the industry, yes, $70-some million is the high figure, 72. However, spread out over that $45.6 billion economic impact on an annual basis, the cost of this project is 0.15%. 0.15% of the annual economic impact of the industry. So we're investors. I think that's what we're called to be. Is that a good investment for this state? I think the answer is yes. I know Regent Atwell agrees with that part of the formula as well. I think we all do. And so just to kind of bring us up into the current situation. We can correct some past mistakes, but this is a really great project, and we should be celebrating it.
Thank you, Regent Bechtel. Regent Klein.
I agree with all that has been said about that this is a great project, so no question there. But I think those of us that sit on capital planning see this coming up as Regent Atwell described, and we talk about it, we identify the issue, and then the frustrating part is that there's no solution. And it seemingly there's a disconnect at times between the State Department of Administration and the system and the campus. And I know Laurent Heller has hired, 15 people to help supervise these projects. So it might not be anyone's fault, but it is incumbent on us as the oversight body to roll up our sleeves and figure out how it can be done more efficiently. And I speak in support of your resolution, Regent Atwell, or your comment, Regent Atwell, because I think it's frustrating. We have to do more than listen and record the issues. We have to really be a force for good here. And this is, I'm not saying anybody in the state, whether it's at our campuses or system, is trying to do anything that is not in the best interest of the state. But these are huge investments. This is the Wisconsin idea, and they've got to be handled well. And I think calling together, if system could call together stakeholders and have that conversation, it would be in the best interest of the people of the state of Wisconsin.
Yes, thank you, Regent Klein. Regent Walsh.
Thank you. I share the concerns that Regent Atwell expressed about process. I understand going forward that the parties involved are sitting down together to move the project forward as a team. That's very gratifying to hear. I'd also like to recognize at this point some of the dairy industry partners who came forward after they heard about the issues with this project and offered more money, which is a great testament to their belief in the importance of this project to dairy research in the state. And I feel at this point we cannot let them down. We cannot let the dairy farmers in our dairy industry down.
It's about time to wrap this up. I would make just a couple of final comments. I mean, we don't always have open discussion and dialogue about matters related to our financial responsibility. This is one that needed to happen. The diversity of this board, where you have folks that can speak so eloquently about the agriculture industry, the veterinary industry, vital aspects of our state's economy, this is the kind of discourse we want to have. Everyone agrees that these are vital programs for our state. Where we're concerned, timelines were slowed, costs were increased, and assets, critical assets, to your point, Regent Walsh, were delayed getting online. As it relates to Regent Atwell, I do agree adults need to be in the room. I think that's led by our chancellor at UW-Madison, the deans of the Department of Agriculture, the dean of veterinary medicine, the system president, myself, the Department of Administration secretary, and ultimately the governor who approves building projects. So I think through the course of these discussions, we have certainly elevated the discourse on the importance of these programs and the necessity for them to move forward in a cost-effective, timeline-balanced way. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of this report, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. That concludes our committee business for the meeting. It's now time to move on to one of our most enjoyable responsibilities as a board, and that's the presentation of Regent Awards. Today, we present the 12th Annual Regent Diversity Awards, where we will recognize outstanding faculty and staff members from 3 of our campus institutions. We honor these individuals for the support and opportunities that they provide to our valuable students. To lead us in the awards presentation, I'll turn the floor over to Chair of the Awards Selection Committee, Regent and Dr. Eve Hall. Regent Hall.
Good morning. On behalf of my colleagues, I'd like to extend a special welcome to this year's award recipients. We also welcome their families, friends, and colleagues who have joined us here this morning. This is, as Regent President Drew Pearson said, our 12th year that the Board of Regents has presented the Diversity Awards, which are meant to recognize the outstanding contributions to diversity and inclusion by people and programs at our UW universities. These are ideals that the UW system has promoted for several decades. Today's awards are part of a special family of awards that we as Regents sponsor. They also include the Regents Teaching Excellence Awards and the Regents Academic Staff Excellence Awards, which recognize exceptional service. The Regents Diversity Awards program, which we present here this morning, was established through a board directive calling for the formal recognition of individuals, teams, or units within the UW system who have successfully fostered greater success and access for historically underrepresented populations. At this time, I'd like to recognize the commitment of my Regent colleagues who served on the selection committees for these awards, and that includes Regent Becky Lesnow, Regent Chris Peterson, and Regent Tori Tiedemann. I want to thank all of the nominees for taking the time to submit materials. I also appreciate the work of those who supported the committee, including Sal Carranza and his team. The people and programs we are going to hear about today understand what's needed. More than that, they do something about meeting those needs. Each of our award winners here today shows a genuine respect for human differences, a deep attentiveness to the learning process, and a keen responsiveness to students and their educational needs. We are proud to recognize their accomplishments and proud they are part of the UW system family. Before we present the awards, I'd like to point out that profiles of each of our award winners have been placed in your folders and are available online. I encourage you to read them at your leisure. My colleagues on the Regent Selection Committee will each introduce one of the award recipients and present the award. Each recipient will then have an opportunity to address the Board of Regents from the podium. Presenting our first award is Regent Becky Lesnow.
Thank you, Regent Hall. Good morning. It is my privilege to present the first Board of Regents Diversity Award in the individual category to Dr. Arijit Sen, Associate Professor of Architecture and Urban Studies in the School of Architecture and Urban Planning at UW-Milwaukee. Dr. Sen models strategies to introduce students to diverse racial, ethnic, economic, and cultural experiences. He is well respected among Milwaukee neighborhood leaders for his multidisciplinary work with students in the underserved communities. His students, for example, have worked with residents and business owners to design and produce public seating areas, a communal fire pit, garden structures, and a farmer's market stands in community open spaces. The students created public exhibits of their experience, which were well received in the neighborhoods and inspired further conversation and communities. Among Professor Sen's long-term and successful projects is the Buildings, Landscape, Cultures Urban Field School, which he directs. The Field School has earned local and national awards for its curriculum and vision for immersing students in communities as they work towards a social justice issues to improve diversity and equity. Undergraduate students who participate in Field School courses go on to graduate school, earning jobs as museum program directors and community-based architects. Dr. Sen has found that engaged research and problem-based learning can help address complex topics to promote diversity, inclusion, and positive institutional change. Testimonials from his students are numerous, including describing Professor Sen as a driving force behind their success in architecture. The interim dean of UW-Milwaukee School of Architecture and Urban Planning, Nancy Frank, had this to say about his work, and I quote, "Professor Sen's approach produces tangible benefits for the community, even as students benefit powerfully from their immersion in the experience." On that note, it is my pleasure to present our first Regent Diversity Award to Dr. Arijit Sen. Congratulations.
I'm very grateful for this recognition. Thank you, Regent Hall, the Board of Regents, the Selection Committee, chancellors, and members of the Diversity Awards Committee, and actually all those individuals in this room who are committed to fostering greater access and success for a diverse body of students in our educational institutions. And I also wanted to thank Ms. Wasley and everyone working behind the scenes to make things like this happen. This is not a prize that I want to accept as an individual. I do so on behalf of many students, colleagues, staffs, community members, and family who walked with me and made it possible for me to collectively work towards the success of our students. I do thank the UWM's Office of Global Inclusion and Engagement. Vice Chancellor Joan Prince has been constantly supportive of our program. Dr. Chia Wang for nominating and recognizing the success of my students. Dean Nancy Frank and the staff of the School of Architecture and Urban Planning, and my colleagues across the campus for their support and help. I'd like to draw your attention to two factors that might have contributed, and I know they did actually, contributed to what I do. First, the many programs in UWM without whose help I couldn't have been here today. The Office of Undergraduate Research, the WISCAMP program, the McNair program. Take, for instance, a team made of Nigel, Kyla, Tamara, Sarah, Jessica at the Office of Undergraduate Research, or a team made of Anik, Linda, and Angie at WISCAMP, who seek out young, hesitant undergraduate students with potential and patiently nurture them into incredible scholars. This consistent support of faculty-mentored research for underrepresented undergraduates from the time they enter UWM till they leave has made measurable impact on closing the achievement gap between students from underrepresented populations. The support offered by these teams can be intensely competitive, setting really very high standards of achievements, but they're always done in a caring and nurturing manner. I found most underrepresented students who I mentored to be ambitious and capable, just that they are sometimes not fully prepared or suave in the path towards academic success. And so being assured of constant support, do research goes a long way, offering them opportunities to learn from mistakes, pick oneself up again, and finally succeed, reach that intellectual brilliance that they always had in them. The second feature that had been very essential for getting a measurable impact in closing the achievement gap for students from underrepresented populations came from the students themselves. Early on in my career, students advised me that in order to address the issue of diversity, I had to look beyond measurable demographic data, that is counting the number of students from different backgrounds, but instead focus on diversifying content and method of teaching and learning in the curriculum as well as in the classroom. What if we added immersive field-based learning to our curriculum, supplementing books and expert knowledge with local and vernacular wisdom offered by places, peoples, and communities from where our underrepresented students came from? Most of my students who worked with me began in my summer field school in Milwaukee's marginalized neighborhoods. They analyzed and examined the worlds they were intensely familiar with, or the worlds that they recognized. They spoke to the wisdom of their elders and acted as go-betweens straddling the world of expert knowledge and grassroots wisdom. I learned from them, and they were proud to contribute to scholarly and disciplinary knowledge. Their confidence and growth and eventual success came from that initial moment where they entered the classroom not feeling lost or removed, but as someone who felt familiar to the object of their analysis. This initial confidence went a long way to their ultimate success. And I do want to thank in this context the community partners who were generous with their time and support, giving to our students free a lot of education that I'm very, very thankful for. Finally, I want to thank my spouse, whose wisdom advice, strength, and sacrifice has always been my North Star. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you very much.
Next, Fostering Success, UW Stout, presented by Regent Chris Peterson.
Our second Regent Diversity Award, this time in the program category, goes to the Fostering Success Program at UW Stout. I have a son that graduated from Stout 2 decades ago, and I was on the Regent Select Committee for Chancellor at Stout this fall, and I got to tell you, I chose to announce this award because I just think it's one of the most special places that we have in the UW system. The Fostering Success Program, which is the first of its kind in the UW system, supports college students who were former foster youth, a population that is often underserved and faces additional barriers to college education. The program also offers a summer pre-college camp for current foster youth to acclimate them to the campus environment. For those of its students who qualify for TRIO services, the Fostering Success Program works in collaboration with the TRIO Student Support Services grant. This grant supports students from first-generation and limited income backgrounds, as well as students with a disability. The goals of the Fostering Success Program are ambitious for former foster youth. National statistics report that although 80% of foster youth have goals of attending college, only 20% enroll and only 3% graduate from a 4-year institution. Fostering Success is making great strides in enrollment and retention. In 2017, the program served only 15 students. Fast forward 2 years, and in 2019, 69 new freshmen indicated that they were eligible for the program. And from spring of 2018 to spring of 2019, 80% of students in the Fostering Success Program were retained. This is a comparison to the 69% retention rate of the general student population. In the nomination materials, Interim Chancellor Patrick Guilfoyle offered this reflection on the impact of the Fostering Success Program. Quote, "We are truly stout proud to give a home and a sense of belonging to our state's fostered youth," unquote. It is my pleasure to present the 2020 Regents Diversity Award in the program category to the Fostering Success Program at UW Stout. The award will be accepted by UW Stout's Director of Student Support Services, Angela Rupi, who is joined today by Fostering Success Program Advisor, Gail Metzel.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to accept this award on behalf of the Fostering Success Program at UW Stout. I would like to recognize some important people without whom this program would not exist. Greta Munns, who jump-started the program at UW Stout 5 years ago, our campus collaborating offices, the community organizations, and those who contribute through donations and continue to support us. I would especially like to thank and recognize Gail Menzel, the current advisor in the program, who works to support our students every day. The first of its kind in the UW system, the Fostering Success Program offers support to UW Stout students with foster care experience. The number of students is ever increasing, and the need for support is imperative. As was stated earlier, the national stats tell us that 80% of foster youth want to go to college, while only 20% enroll. For youth who age out of the foster care system, those statistics also tell us that they are more likely to end up homeless, incarcerated, or dead than complete a four-year degree. Nationally, the graduation rate is only 3%. The Fostering Success Program works to improve those outcomes through advisement and support, academic resources, access to supplies, family dinners, and small scholarships. Our students face many barriers, including lack of financial resources. Even with access to Pell Grant and taking out max federal student loans, many of our students have unmet financial need. And in fact, many of them are working nearly full-time while carrying a full course load. Access without support is not true opportunity. However, with the support of the Fostering Success Program, our students are thriving. The retention rate from fall 2018 to fall 2019 was 84%, an increase over the year before and surpassing the UW Stout general population retention rate. And the number of students is ever growing, a 360% increase in the last 3 years. This award and the funding attached will go directly back into the program, which is primarily supported by community grants and private donations. Gail and I are thankful for the recognition of the Fostering Success Program, grateful for the opportunity to share more about the program, and excited to continue this work in supporting our students. Thank you.
Our final award, Department of Chemistry, UW-Madison, presented by Regent Tori Tiedemann.
Good morning. Regent President, President Cross, my fellow regents, chancellors and provosts, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am humbly honored to present the third Regents Diversity Award in the program category to the Department of Chemistry here at UW-Madison. The Department of Chemistry is enhancing recruitment and retention of underrepresented minority and first-generation students through complementary initiatives designed to increase representation within its large graduate program. The Research Experiences for Undergraduates program, for example, creates a pipeline for students to experience summer research in a top 10 ranked chemistry department. A second initiative, called Chemistry Opportunities, or CHOPS for short, exposes students who might not otherwise learn about graduate training to the opportunities offered by a top research university. CHOPS has increased the number of students from underserved populations that eventually pursue a chemistry PhD. A third initiative, known as Catalyst, appropriately so, provides mentoring and support to students. The Catalyst program is designed to enhance the success of underrepresented minority and first-generation students in persisting and completing a chemistry PhD. The success of these initiatives led directly to UW-Madison's Department of Chemistry landing support through the American Chemical Society for the first Bridge to the Chemistry Doctorate program. This 22-month transitional master's degree program admitted its first underrepresented students in the fall of 2019. The chair of the chemistry department, Judith Burston, made this observation in the nomination materials, and I quote, "The development and success of these programs would not have been possible without the exceptional effort and creativity of our outstanding faculty and staff," end quote. And that is but one of many collegial testimonials provided in our own materials. Please join me in congratulating the UW-Madison Department of Chemistry and welcoming Judith Burston, Department Chair, who will accept the award on the program's behalf.
Good morning. It's a great honor to receive this recognition for the Department of Chemistry for our work to increase diversity. Our department ranked 9th in the U.S. in chemistry, and we run one of the largest graduate programs on the UW-Madison campus with over 300 students. In our field, the PhD is a professional degree leading to excellent job opportunities in private industry, government, or academia, to name a few. We graduate around 50 PhD and 10 MS chemists each year. Our goal is that these graduates are broadly representative of the U.S. population as a whole, and we're making slow and steady progress towards diversifying our graduate student population. As leaders of this effort, we each represent some aspect of diversity within the field of chemistry, and we feel a strong personal commitment to increasing educational opportunities for others in chemistry. I'm Judith Burston. I was one of the first female faculty hired and tenured in the department, and I'm the first woman to become department chair.
The Wisconsin idea signifies a general principle. University research should be applied to solve problems such as improve health, quality of life, the environment, and agriculture for all citizens of the state. This idea has become a guiding philosophy of our university outreach efforts in Wisconsin and throughout the world. One glance at social media and we see the global reaches of the Wisconsin idea. I ask you now, imagine if we could create a future of alumni who have experienced an inclusive community and have had the benefit of learning among a diverse student population. The inclusive mindset and appreciation for diversity would spread across the globe. I, Desiree Bates, grew up in Wisconsin, in La Crosse. I am a product of the Wisconsin idea, and I am honored to be a part of this community.
Our diversity efforts have spanned more than 13 years and have truly infused nearly every aspect of our department. The efforts recognized by this award started with our Research Experience for Undergraduates program, which brings a diverse cohort of students to campus for summer research. This program acts as a recruiting tool to increase the diversity of our graduate student application or applicant pool. Desiree and I also expanded the efforts towards a program called Chemistry Opportunities, we call it CHOPS. Is a program that brings diverse students to campus and they can witness firsthand what graduate school is truly like. Okay. Desiree and I, though, soon realized that a stronger support network needed to be in place in our graduate program in order to let our graduate students truly thrive. So we developed the program called Catalyst. And Catalyst is a peer mentoring program that offers monthly meetings with professional development and topics of community building and cultural awareness. Catalyst truly has taught our students a lot about themselves, but also taught them how to acknowledge and to celebrate their individuality, and also how to use diversity that is within us all to become better chemists. These foundational programs were instrumental to our positioning to receive the nation's first Bridge to Chemistry doctorate program from the American Chemical Society. I am Sherry Bardet. I'm a first-generation PhD graduate and also a woman in STEM.
Hi, I'm Bob Hamers. I'm also a product of the Wisconsin idea and a first-generation college student from an economically disadvantaged household in Kenosha. As an undergrad here at Madison, my life was literally transformed by faculty who gave me opportunities that I had never, ever dreamed of. And so it's been a privilege to have the opportunity to come back as a 30-year faculty member to return the favor. In 2007, we started the Research Experience for Undergraduates program, and in 2019, the nation's first ACS Bridge to the Chemistry Doctorate program, providing pathways for students from underrepresented groups to fulfill their dreams of getting a PhD. So while the efforts being celebrated today have required dedicated champions like you see up here, it also takes tremendous effort from faculty, staff, students, and administrators like yourselves. So all of you share in the award and the continuing responsibility as well. We'd like to thank our industrial sponsors, including Procter & Gamble, Dow Chemical, PPG, and campus support from LNS and the Graduate School. On behalf of all of us here today, the Chemistry Department and the entire Madison campus would like to thank you for recognizing the importance of diversity and our department's efforts. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our well-deserved Diversity Award winners. As I mentioned earlier, one of the most outstanding and remarkable things that we do is recognize folks for their contributions on our campuses. Moving to item 12 of the agenda, we'll now turn to athletics. The UW Board of Regents has reporting guidelines for UW institutions that participate in NCAA Division I athletics to annually provide information regarding academic compliance matters. This accountability framework allows the board to provide proper oversight and also safeguard the well-being and success of our UW student athletes. It also provides us the opportunity for us to review the financial viability of our UW athletic programs and how they contribute to the UW institution's academic mission. Today we'll hear the report from UW-Madison Athletic Director Barry Alvarez, as well as Deputy Athletic Director Chris McIntosh and their team. With no further ado, Barry Alvarez.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We just completed another very successful year in UW Athletics. I'd like to start with academics. Proud of the academic commitment and achievement of our student athletes. In the fall of 2019, our term grade point average was 3.164. That's the second highest on record. The fall 2019 cumulative grade point average of 3.155 is the highest we have on record. Another outstanding year. Compliance, we had no major level 1 or 2 violations. We had 21 reported level 3 or 4. That is formally known as a secondary violation. That's a credit to our staff being willing to self-report and our culture of rules and compliance. We had no violations of Big Ten standards for safeguarding institutional governance of collegiate athletics. Financially, first I'd like to introduce our new CFO, Adam Barnes. Pleased to say that our department again operated in the black last year. Athletics contributed to campus a total of $9.8 million. Also wanted to mention that we completed an economic impact study of the athletic department and revealed the following. $610 million annual economic impact on the state of Wisconsin, a $395 million annual economic impact on the Madison area, $16 million economic impact on the state generated each Badger home football game. I'd like to mention something about a former athlete. Some of you may be familiar with comments made public recently by former Wisconsin football student athlete Chris Borland. When our program is portrayed in a manner inconsistent with who we are, we have a responsibility to ask questions and to look into it. That is what I did in this case. I've involved Dr. Ann Sheehy from our UW Athletic Board, as well as other campus resources to ensure that our medical practices are sound and that the safety of our student athletes is assured. As the process continues, I'm encouraged with the early findings and feel confident that we have a sound sports medicine system, one that places the priority of health and our student athletes first. Name, image, and likeness issues. You've all heard a lot in recent months about the topic of potentially granting student athletes the option to profit from the use of their names, image, or likeness. I'd like to outline a few thoughts that represent our views on this matter. One, the rules governing intercollegiate athletics will be modernized. With modernizing intercollegiate athletics, education remains our highest priority. We believe in an educational model for intercollegiate athletics. Even with modernization, participants are to be students and not paid employees of the institution. We believe that the progress made over the past few decades in the way of equitable opportunities due to the effectiveness of Title IX should not be eroded or undermined. Finally, we believe that given the national interstate nature of intercollegiate athletics, where there's not just interstate competition, but also interstate competition for recruits, there needs to be a national regulatory approach as opposed to one that varies on a state-by-state basis. Such an approach is needed to provide a fair and uniform system of eligibility, practice, competition, financial aid, benefits, and of crucial importance, recruitment, which is unique to intercollegiate athletics and not be compromised by modernization. Capital projects. The Cole Center addition. The project is an approximately 40,000 square foot addition over the top of the existing loading dock. The project is student service focused with a new weight room, sports medicine area, academic center, nutrition center, and renovated locker room space for men's and women's basketball, among other things. It will also include new office space for coaching staffs and a new court levels club section. The project is tentatively scheduled to start in the fall of 2020 and be completed early of 2023. Camp Randall Stadium South End Zone. This project, as the name indicates, is in the south end zone of Camp Randall and is centered around creating a new premium game experience for our fans. The project will include new club spaces, club and loge seating, and outdoor plaza. Recently, contractor J.P. Cullen and architects HOK and Berners Schober were selected to lead the design and construction of this design building project. The project is scheduled to begin immediately after the 2020 season and be complete before the start of the 2021 season. Fieldhouse renovation and plaza. The exterior of the Fieldhouse will get a facelift this spring with all new windows, new doors, new roof, and the cleaning and repairs of the exterior. The project also includes a new plaza in front of the Fieldhouse and a new campus sign on the corner of Regent and Breeze Terrace. The project is scheduled to be completed late August 2020. Safety review. Athletics continues to take safety and security of its student athletes and staff very seriously. Over the past 6 months, we've taken measures to better secure the perimeter of Camp Randall Stadium with new gates, automated fencing, and we're excited about partnering with UW-PD to add on-site uniformed security personnel to monitor the safety and security of our student athletes and staff on a daily basis, as well as working to improve daily security protocols. Our athletic accomplishments in 2018 and 19. We finished 16th nationally in the Learfield Directors' Cup. That's tying our highest finish in the past 25 years. We had 37 All-Americans. 17 of our 23 sports advanced to postseason competition, including a 5th national championship for women's hockey and a Big Ten record 5th straight bowl victory. We also capped off this past fall with the Big Ten West Division football title and appearance in the Rose Bowl. Several individual standouts. We had several individual standouts. Running back Jonathan Taylor won the Doak Walker Award as the nation's top running back. Beta Nelson was named National Swimmer of the Year. Men's basketball's Ethan Happ was named Pete Newell Big Man of the Year. Alicia Monson was a national champion in track. Morgan McDonald won the national titles in cross country, indoor, and outdoor track. Former soccer All-American Rose Lavelle starred for Team USA in the 2019 World Cup. That's my report. Be willing to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Alvarez. Questions from Board of Regents members regarding Madison athletics? I don't think anybody regrets these being short, sweet, and very, very positive. Thank you very much, Director Alvarez. We appreciate you and your team for being here today.
Thank you.
We also owe a debt of gratitude to the athletics department for getting us back on schedule. Next on the agenda is a review of Wisconsin Public Media. The Board of Regents is the licensee of 15 FCC non-commercial broadcasting licenses across the state of Wisconsin. UW-Madison's division of Wisconsin Public Media operates many of these stations either wholly or in partnership with other UW campuses. As the licensee of these stations, the Board of Regents is accountable to the FCC for compliance with all statutory and regulatory requirements. Today's presentation is intended to provide Regents with information necessary to fulfill those oversight obligations. To start off the presentation, let's welcome Chancellor Blank back to the podium to introduce our next presenter. Chancellor Blank.
Thank you, Regent President Peterson. I am delighted to introduce Jean Purcell, who is the Director of Wisconsin Public Media at UW-Madison. Wisconsin Public Media has two main divisions, Wisconsin Public Radio and PBS Wisconsin. Jean has more than 30 years of public broadcasting experience and previously served as the Executive Director of the Wisconsin Educational Communications Board. He did that for 10 years. This is the board that distributes through public media educational materials, public safety, and public broadcasting services across Wisconsin. Public media in Wisconsin is quite literally the last of the locally owned, independently operated, and focused media services in the state. It's been a period of a great deal of consolidation among other places that might have made those claims. Here in Wisconsin, public TV and radio have more than 125 members across the state and reach more than 2 million listeners, as well as digitally engaged audiences. WPM also serves as a daily and very visible reminder of the Wisconsin idea in action. And at UW-Madison, we've been very proud in the last 2 years to welcome Wisconsin media back home. Jean.
Well, thank you, Chancellor. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for that kind introduction. And thank you also for the opportunity to address the board and provide an update of our work at Wisconsin Public Media. It's been a busy couple of years for Wisconsin Public Media, as Wisconsin Public Radio and as PBS Wisconsin have now fully transitioned our operation into UW-Madison. And I'm pleased to be able to tell you today that the transition from UW Extension into UW-Madison, which was a major undertaking for UW-Madison and for WPM, along with all the other organizations affected by that, that reorganization has been completed and completed successfully. And I'd like to thank Chancellor Blank, Provost Schulz, and the rest of the literally team at UW-Madison who worked to make all of this possible. I've not been through a transition like this before, but I am hard-pressed to know how it could have gone much more smoothly. So my thanks to you for welcoming us. As I say, UW-Madison has welcomed us, and WPM is happy to call UW-Madison home. And as the Chancellor just said, it really is coming home. Do we have another slide coming up? I'll just call for them as they go. Oh, the clicker's on the podium, so I do this? Look at that, there we go. So, our history began on the UW-Madison campus over 100 years ago. And in fact, some of you may have been around when we celebrated our centennial back in 2017. Work on radio began on the UW-Madison campus before that, but 1917 was a magic date because what was then called 9XM, now WHA-AM, was then able to broadcast voice and music together for the first time. And that was a very significant improvement in the Morse code that we used before that. And some of you might also know, if you know your broadcast history, that WHA-AM has a claim as the oldest station in the nation. It's a claim that others have made as well. So those of you who know your early broadcast history know that we are not alone in claiming to be the first broadcaster. But I'm going to tell you that I am from Wisconsin. I am part of Wisconsin Public Media. It is our story, and we are sticking to it. The one thing I can tell you, though, is that public broadcasting, as we know it today, began here on the UW-Madison campus. By the early 1920s, WHA-AM was broadcasting to small towns, to farmers, and others throughout Wisconsin, delivering the expertise of the university far beyond its campus borders. The 1940s brought the construction of the state FM network, and by 1954, we started to broadcast television. Today, Wisconsin Public Radio and PBS Wisconsin are a partnership between a state agency, the Educational Communications Board, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison, with the Board of Regents holding the licenses for 15 radio and TV stations. Most of those stations, by the way, are in the WPM portfolio. Together, the partnership oversees the operations of Wisconsin Public Radio, operating 3 networks, and PBS Wisconsin, which broadcasts 4 services throughout the state. Outside of Madison, Wisconsin Public Radio operates regional bureaus, most of them located on UW system campuses. These bureaus in Milwaukee, La Crosse, Eau Claire, Superior, Green Bay, and Wausau house local staff, which helps us to fulfill our mission of truly serving Wisconsin. And that statewide engagement really does find significant audiences. It's a question I get all the time. How many people watch? How many people listen? Well, in Wisconsin, about 500,000 viewers every single week tune in to PBS Wisconsin. And about 425,000 people tune into Wisconsin Public Radio, with another 30,000 or so listening online. And speaking of online, we are online. When we're mobile, we're constantly working in that space, and our content is more available than ever before. And I'm pleased to be able to tell you that all of that work that we do, all of that statewide engagement really does pay off. That work is supported throughout the state by people who value our service and are willing to support it. Last year, there were about 70,000 individual members to supporting PBS Wisconsin, and about 52,000 individual supporters of Wisconsin Public Radio. And that doesn't count corporate support, or the work we do in planned giving, or the work we do in major donors or other grants and projects. We work hard to raise the funding for the work that we aspire to. That funding does all sorts of things. It provides access, of course, to national and international programming. Those are key elements in our work. But it really allows us to take a close look at Wisconsin. And that's a focus that can take many different forms. During the last year, PBS Wisconsin examined how rural life in Wisconsin is changing. Stories told by the people who live there.
PBS Wisconsin expanded upon the broadcast program by curating a website with additional stories and additional programs from PBS Wisconsin and Wisconsin Public Radio on rural issues. Elsewhere, we provide models for civic engagement. WPR's Beyond the Ballot is a good example of that. In the year leading up to the 2018 election, WPR reached out directly to listeners. We went beyond the usual political voices, the usual political experts you hear every day, and we asked people directly what mattered to them. In all, we heard from more than 500 Wisconsin residents from throughout the state. You see some of them on the screen here. And again, we expanded the availability of this reporting by collecting the stories online in addition to our regular broadcast reports. Last year, PBS Wisconsin also focused on Eau Claire. It's part of our continuing Hometown Stories series. While there, we met with community members to develop a documentary program on the history of Eau Claire for broadcast and online. We also worked with local educators to develop K-12 curriculum, which lives in the community long past the documentary air date. And some of that curriculum includes a biography of Joe B. Zhang. It's the remarkable story of his journey from war-torn Laos to Eau Claire, where he created a new life first as a police officer, then as a social worker, becoming the first Hmong American to serve in an elected office in Wisconsin. Our work is offered in both English and Hmong, and it's the latest in our continuing Wisconsin Biographies series produced specifically for K-12 students in Wisconsin. We heard a lot of news stories in the last couple of weeks about the importance of Act 31 education. Act 31, of course, mandates that students in public schools be provided education about Wisconsin's Native American cultures. And as part of the Act 31 coalition, we're proud, PBS Wisconsin, to provide some of the essential media materials necessary to teach that work. And I think all of you know that we have a commitment to statewide journalism. WPR and PBS Wisconsin routinely partner on important news coverage, particularly during election seasons, and I can guarantee that this year is going to be no exception. Planning is underway for this year's coverage leading up to the November election. Wisconsin, as you know, is going to be a key player in that, so we are going to have plenty to do. And we will be at all of the races around the state covering them, and in fact, we'll also be at the party conventions here in Milwaukee, and we'll be traveling to Charlotte as well for the Republican convention. And I also want to mention, too, one of the things we hear a lot in public broadcasting is work in the in-depth journalism field. It's really is a hallmark of our work. WPR's High Tolerance series provided an examination last year of Wisconsin's complicated relationship with alcohol. And separately, PBS Wisconsin looked at how mental health providers across the state are responding to new research on how trauma affects the brain during childhood in its production called Not Enough Apologies. High-quality journalism really does deserve a high-quality start, and one of the things we do is provide a training ground for young journalists through opportunities such as the Lee Esther News Fellowship, the Second Century News Fellowship, and the Mike Simonson Memorial Investigative Reporting Fellowship, and other paid student experiences. WPR and PBS Wisconsin provide a professional environment in which they can learn the craft of journalism. And at the same time, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the future. These are very interesting times to be in the media business. WPM is adapting to meet the challenges of a changing media environment and the needs of a changing audience. The technologies we've traditionally used, broadcast radio, broadcast television, remain central to our work. But like other media providers, WPM is adapting to the demands of meeting our audiences where they are. For example, they are on your tablet or on your cell phone right next to you. So during a break, if you could do me a favor and take a moment and go download our apps, that would be awesome. And I want to mention the work we do in education. When people think of public broadcasting, they think of news, they think of classical music, they think of documentaries. Not everybody knows that we have been in the education space for about 80 years. We started broadcasting, I think you know, to one-room schoolhouses, and that work, that commitment to education continues today. In 2018, PBS Wisconsin launched Joe Wilder and the Capitol Case. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is not public media the way that you might remember it. It is a free online educational video game developed in partnership with Field Day, which is part of the UW-Madison Center for Education Research. But Joe Wilder is more than just a game. It's educational media. It is designed specifically to address Wisconsin's academic standards for grades 3 through 5 in social studies, English language arts, and information and technology literacy. And our work, too, you can see on the bottom left in the Timothy S. Trout Education Innovation Lab, collaborating there with the Wisconsin Institute for Discovery to bring STEM education to Wisconsin classrooms, provides yet another example of how WPM partners to deliver service to the entire state. Well, I am nearly out of time, and like all good broadcasters, I know how to hit a clock, so I'm going to do that. And telling you about all of the work that we do in just a few minutes, I have to tell you, is a very distinct challenge. But I hope I've given you a sense of our work, and I hope that I've given you a sense of our aspirations. WPM, together with our partners at the ECB, is a home for NPR, for PBS, and it's a place for telling Wisconsin stories so that everyone can share in them. We're deeply appreciative of the support provided by UW-Madison, other UW system campuses, our donors, corporate supporters, and other partners. We simply cannot do that work without them, and we work hard to earn your trust every single day. It's been a remarkable couple of years at Wisconsin Public Media. Without predicting the future too much, I can tell you it's going to be another remarkable year in 2020, and we have a lot to do. Thank you for your support. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and thank you for the opportunity to talk. Yes.
And thank you to you and your team for the leadership as part of this transition. It's gone very, very smoothly from our perspective. And again, I also appreciate, I think we all appreciate you bringing us up to speed with all of the new developments at Wisconsin Public Media. With that, questions from the Board of Regents. Regent Walsh.
Thank you. Jean, my first professional job after journalism school was a newsreader on the State Net for Morning Edition. And so I was very glad to see you're still offering opportunities to young reporters. I was certainly wet behind the ears and appreciated the opportunity that public radio gave to me. Also, I'm delighted to see you folks leading in the digital space, although I no longer have to get up at 3 a.m. I do listen, I do go online and take advantage of your service. It's fabulous. So I'd just like to close by demonstrating I still have my public radio voice. Okay. Thank you to Wisconsin Public Radio.
Well, you could always use a few voices, so if you want to come over and do a few tracks, we'd love it.
As long as I don't have to get up at 3 a.m., Gene, I'm fine.
We can do that.
Any regents wish to compete with Regent Walsh? Hearing none, she is the undisputed champion of radio voice. Other questions of regents? Jean, thank you very much for being here today. Regents, we have a couple of additional administrative rules matters that we must attend to. So with that, as you are all aware, the board has been in the process of updating the administrative code that helps govern the UW system. First, we're in the process of updating Chapter 17 to reflect and fully implement the freedom of expression policy previously adopted by this board. We're also updating Chapter 18 to clarify what would be considered harassment on campus. The next step in the rulemaking process is for both Chapters 17 and 18 to come before this board, and we must approve a rule order containing the proposed rule language and a planned language analysis, an economic impact analysis, and a fiscal statement and estimate on the rule, a notice of submittal to the Legislative Council of the proposed rule, and a notice of public hearing on the proposed rule. It should be noted that this is all part of a process that is prescribed under state law for all administrative rules. Following today's action, the next step in that process will involve a public hearing on the actual proposed language and a public comment period. We anticipate the full rule changes will be back before us for our final review, our fourth and final review and consideration at the April board meeting. If the board approves the rule changes in April, they will then go to the governor, where he could choose to approve or reject those changes. So let's start with consideration of Resolution 14, approving the Administrative Code Rule Order, Economic Impact Analysis and Fiscal Estimate, Notice of Submittal to the Legislative Council, and Notice of Public Hearing for Chapter UWS 17, Wisconsin Administrative Code, titled Non-Academic Student Misconduct. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 214?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next is Resolution 15, approving the Administrative Code Rule Order, Economic Impact Analysis and Fiscal Estimate, Notice of Submittal to the Legislative Council, and Notice of Public Hearing for Chapter UWS 18, Wisconsin Administrative Code, titled Conduct on University Lands. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 215? So moved. Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Or any discussion related to UWS 18? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this point, I'd like to again thank Chancellor Blank, she is here, and her team for their hospitality both during our last 2 days here and last evening. I'll now call on Regent Tori Tiedemann, a UW-Madison student, to read our resolution of appreciation to UW-Madison for hosting the February meeting. Regent Tiedemann.
Thank you, Regent President Peterson, and thank you, Chancellor Blank and UW-Madison and your whole team. Whereas the members of the Board of Regents are pleased to recognize the University of Wisconsin-Madison as the official host campus for the board's February 2020 meeting, and are grateful for the generous hospitality extended this month by Chancellor Rebecca Blank and the entire Badger community. And whereas the board appreciated hearing Chancellor Blank's presentation, how UW-Madison is navigating the rapidly changing world of higher education, and whereas the Education Committee thanks Provost Carl Schultz for his overview of high-impact practices in unexpected places, describing ways large classes can provide valuable learning experiences for students. And whereas the Capital Planning and Budget Committee heard from UW-Madison's Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration, Lauren Heller, about UW-Madison's capital program, including types of projects, funding sources, approval methods, and delivery methods used. And whereas the Business and Finance Committee appreciated hearing a presentation by Associate Vice Chancellor for Finance David Murphy about how UW-Madison is transforming finance and administration, highlighting recent renovations and upcoming strategic projects in these areas. And whereas the Research, Economic Development, and Innovation Committee was pleased to hear about Women in Science and Engineering Residential Learning Community, known as WISE, a program that nurtures women's interest in STEM fields. And whereas the board was delighted to hear from this month's Student Spotlight, Kevin Crosby this morning, a senior at UW-Madison majoring in nutritional sciences with a certificate in environmental studies. And whereas the board was pleased to tour the UW-Madison George L. Moss Humanities Building and applauded the opportunity to hear the UW-Madison Symphony Orchestra's performance in the sparkling new Hamel Music Center. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents hereby thanks UW-Madison for this month's informative presentations, its forward-thinking spirit, and its many continued contributions to UW system and to the state of Wisconsin. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Tiedemann, and again, thank you, Chancellor Blank and your team. At this point, our final item, are there any Regent communications, petitions, or memorials? President Cross.
I would like to recognize Patrick Guilfoyle, who has served as interim chancellor at Stout, and express our appreciation to him. This will be his last meeting as interim chancellor, so thank you. Catherine. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. Any other petitions? Hearing none, at this point I'll seek a motion to adjourn. And a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We stand adjourned.